Welcome again, everybody. Let me just share my screen for 1 second. There we go. Okay, perfect. So yes, as I mentioned at the start, today's webinar will be looking at behavior management strategies for the English as a foreign language classroom. Um, you will, as always, receive a certificate of participation and a webinar handout, hopefully by midday tomorrow. If you don't receive it, email us at formazione@mlaworld.com. So to introduce the topic for this evening, obviously we all know that behavior management is of the utmost importance in every type of classroom. But in the EFL classroom, there are some specific behavioral challenges which may occur. For example, students wanting to speak in their native language and not in the target language is probably the most important one. Some specifics which we experience at MLA is because the students are only in our centres for 1 or 2 weeks, then forming a relationship as the teacher and the student can provide some challenges because it's such a short space of time. But there are others which we will go through as the webinar progresses. So I've mentioned a few, but if you have any other um, challenges and experienced any behavioral issues, write those into the chat for us now. And then maybe Ruth, if there are any which you think are particularly outstanding, you can let us know.
I will do. I think everybody has a lot to talk about when it comes to behavioral challenges. Teachers, they are countless, aren't they?
They are indeed. So today we'll be looking at specific challenges and exploring different strategies on how to ensure good behavior. These will be categorized into two strategies: proactive and reactive. And we'll look at each of those in a little bit more depth, and different ways to approach both of those strategies. Um,
The objectives of this session, basically, what we would like is to help you uh, be better able to define behavior management. What do we consider behavior management? And appreciate how important it is in the EFL classroom, along with the strategies. Okay. And then also understand different strategies to maintain classroom management and when to use them, the practical side of things.
Okay, so strategies to maintain good classroom behavior. There are multiple ways to do this, and depending on your teaching approach, your personality as a teacher, the class that you have, you can employ different strategies in different contexts. I remember previously when I've had larger classroom sizes, I would approach behavioral challenges or potential challenges in a different way to when I had classes of a smaller student population. Um, there can be dynamics such as an imbalance in gender. Maybe you have a classroom of 10 and you have 8 boys and 2 girls in the class. So there will be different challenges posed by the gender makeup of the classroom, and also the ages of the students, how you would approach a class of 12 and 13-year-olds would be different, you would expect, to how you would approach a class of 15 and 16-year-olds. There is no right or wrong way in approaching classes, but it's finding ways in which the students respond best to these approaches and which we feel comfortable in deploying it in the classroom, because as we will see, having consistency is super important in deploying these strategies. As I mentioned briefly a moment ago, we will separate these strategies into proactive and reactive.
How exciting. I can't wait. Let's see what you mean by that.
So, looking at proactive strategies first. So, being proactive is ensuring good behavior occurs in the classroom before any disruptive behavior has the opportunity to appear. So we've broken this down into three strategies. There are no doubt more, but given the time constraints that we have, we've given you three. These are setting clear expectations, building fostering relationships, and creating engaging lessons. Okay, so we'll look at each of these in more detail now.
Lovely. So basically, setting clear expectations is always a good idea because I think sometimes teenagers don't know and children don't know what's expected. And it is very important to outline it. Basically, because they generally provide vague answers. I don't know if you've done this before. Do you actually outline the classroom expectations? Please let us know in the chat. We would love to hear what you think. So basically, what I have observed in my experience is that students generally come up with vague answers. So basically, to be a good student. So what's exactly to be a good student? To behave well. What do we mean by that? So the more we specify this, the better. But I think it is very, very important to do it collaboratively because we will be expecting things from them and they will also be expecting things from you as a teacher. And when you ask them the right questions and you find out and they give you the answer and it comes from them, they actually, when you ask them, why do you want to learn English? Why do you have to speak English in class? And that it comes from them, it is definitely much better because they will be involved in the process of creating the rules. They will feel part of the decision making process. And it actually puts the focus on them. It's very learner centered and it puts their responsibility on them as well. Sorry, some people are raising their hands. Can you please type in the chat? Is everything okay? Is I can't see anything in the chat. I'm not sure whether we can. Hang on a second. Now I've activated the chat. I think it was my fault. Okay, everybody can chat now. I'm so sorry. Please put your comments in there. Thank you. Hello. So that was me. I thought I had activated it. So let us know how often do you do this? And so this is what we do as a first lesson in our program at MLA Centers. We went over this in detail in another webinar. They're all available online in our YouTube channel. Uh, because this is a very good strategy to get your students to continue speaking English because they know that is something they want to do and they've signed it and you can always refer to it. Do you remember when we did this? How far have we got? And also you can assess it mid-term. You can actually, go back to the contract and let them reflect upon it. How good have I been? So you're basically setting the tone. It is always a very good idea. I can see that most of you do this. They need to get involved. And at the beginning of the lesson, first lesson, I absolutely agree with this. And I think it works, doesn't it?
This first lesson that we have at our centers is actually one of my favorite ones to teach when I do have to teach it, when I have taught it, because it's surprising how in tune the students are with one another. You will get the same answer repeated quite consistently. So it would be, yeah, speaking English only, showing respect to one another. So these are all good answers, but then it's like you said, Ruth, it's like, especially with something like respect is quite a vague concept, really. So when you tease out, like, okay, so what is showing respect? And then the students get used to discussing and thinking critically about such concepts. So yeah, I actually quite enjoyed this lesson in our centers. It gets the students thinking and working together straight away, and it gets them, as we said, as you said previously, Ruth, sorry, getting them to take responsibility and to be part of the decision making process through
I think it's
from the very beginning.
important. Basically, I mean, we've got someone here saying that they prepare a poster. I used to
Hmm.
do that with the rules, but when you get your students involved, try it out because it does work better. Because the rules don't come just from the teacher. And
Hmm.
also, they will say what they want us to do as well, which we're going to look at that a little bit later with engaging lessons.
Hmm. And it's also super important as well that this is what the students expect from the teacher. It's
Absolutely.
not just a one-way street where it's us making expectations for them, but it's also us taking responsibility and fulfilling what the students expect from from us. Um, oh,
As
it's not.
clearly as possible. I agree, Gaetano.
Building relationships is a lot easier, I would say, when you're a teacher all year round in state schools or private schools, when you see your students um, on a regular basis. This is something that I think is can be quite challenging at our MLA centers because the students are with us for a short period of time. To be honest, generally they're more excited on going on the excursions than they are in being in the classroom. So it can be quite a challenge for the teachers to build the relationships with the students in the centers and to get them to buy in to be participants in the class. But an important way that we ask our teachers to do this is to try and get involved with the students and maybe ask them what they've done in the morning if they've had their excursion in the morning. Ask them what their evening activity would be when if you've got them in the afternoon. So you are showing an interest in their general stay with us and not just whilst they're in the classroom. So um, building relationships, fostering yeah, a level of respect, and showing an interest will get the students just to generally hopefully behave a little bit more in the classroom. So along with this mutual respect that is developed, and also the expectation setting that we've just outlined, should nullify any bad behavior. There obviously we can't get rid of this completely, but hopefully it should be minimized. And then when this happens, the teaching environment, the classroom environment, is just much more conducive for students to be able to learn and for teachers to be able to teach.
I think it's
Ruth?
a good idea to build a nice relationship because at the end of the day, we spend a lot of hours with our students and they need to see that we care, basically. And when they see that we care, they feel that kind of obligation to
Mhm.
respond to the teacher as well because, okay, they care about me. So, um, having said that, basically, it is challenging in the centers, but it's also really interesting how intense everything
Mhm.
is because they're in a different country. Everything goes really fast. So we also manage to build relationships quite fast, don't we?
Mhm. Yeah, and like I said, it is different than seeing students all year round, once a week. You're seeing the students every day for an hour and a half or 2 hours for a period of 2 weeks. So yes, it's a short period of time, but it's an intense period of time, which is what we like at MLA. So yeah. Um, and as Ruth mentioned briefly earlier, developing engaging lessons will encourage good behavior. If the students are engaged in the subject material, they won't think or feel the need to misbehave in any way. This is something that we take quite seriously at MLA. We understand the students are abroad, they want to have fun, but we also need them to use and practice English in the classroom. So how do we combine the two? You make engaging lessons in which they will find fun, but also develop their language learning, language usage. And this should promote a good classroom environment in terms of behavior. Um, so for example, as we have on the screen, this is taken from one of our task time books, and it's packing for a trip. In this lesson, if memory serves correctly, the students have to create a video, a TikTok style video explaining what what they bring, what's important to bring to a summer school. So it's fun because it's a TikTok style video. It's relatable because they're using English with regards to going on a trip, and it's also relevant because the students are on that trip
It's quite a
themselves.
nice lesson, this one, isn't it?
So
They get
yeah.
very excited about it.
Hmm.
And we always say that a busy teenager who's engaged in doing what they have to do is not a disruptive student.
No.
So it is true that sometimes it's challenging and it's a matter of adapting the lessons that we have to deliver because this lesson is particularly interesting and
Hmm.
engaging, but sometimes we have to deal with material which is not that engaging. So how can we adapt it to make sure that our students will engage with the task and be busy?
Hmm. Definitely. So yeah, so these are three ways which we can do proactively to ensure good classroom behavior, setting expectations, building relationships, and planning engaging lessons. Reactive strategies, as you may be able to guess, is or are strategies in how we respond to situations. Okay, so when something occurs in the class and you deal with it in a particular way, that is a reactive strategy. You are reacting to whatever has happened. This doesn't always have to be negative, as we will see. Again, we've broken it down into three. So positive reinforcement, consistent consequences, and conflict resolution if necessary. Um, so again, we'll take a look at these in slightly more detail. So first, positive reinforcement.
Right. So basically, I think sometimes when we have a challenging class, when there are students misbehaving, and until we actually get the hang of the class and we manage to to get it work, okay? And sometimes we focus a lot on the negative things. And it is important to focus on what people are doing well in the classrooms. They respond really well to that. Okay. Students, of course, they need to be involved in classes. And the best way to involve them in the classroom is by saying what they're doing okay, not only pointing out what they do wrong. How can we actually acknowledge these good things, these positive contributions that they make into the classroom? So basically, we can set rewards, we can praise them, we can find games to encourage them to continue that good behavior in the classroom. And I think this approach works particularly well with teenagers. Even making a competition, it could be boys versus girls. I don't particularly like that, but North versus South, different teams that you've created and you dealing with all year or maybe for a short period of time. And that's how they take responsibility of their behavior because they will be self-police, they will be patrolling. Whether they're using English, they're complying with the rules, they're using the language. And something that works really well, and we do have more specific ideas because this is also related to trying to keep our students speaking in English in class. We have that webinar. Please do watch it if you're interested Because our point system works really well. Instead of us repeating the same thing over and over again, like please keep it in English, please don't do this, please talk to your partners, don't check your phones. Instead of doing that, it's much better if you set a competition in the classroom and then you give them points and you take a note of them. And then they'll get a reward. So you can set simple rewards. They don't have to be physical things. Okay, it could be something like, okay, we'll be playing a song at the end of the lesson. You choose a music, of course, appropriate music, which is quite hard these days, but a video, a song in English, or maybe play the favorite game at the end of the lesson, or something that they really enjoy could serve as a reward. But basically, when you're actually noting down the points on the board, they will know who's doing well, which is a form of praising. And at
Mhm.
the same time, they'll get involved and they'll think, hey, hang on, that team is getting better. They're getting more points. They're going to get to choose a song. So it is quite a good tip. So positive reinforcement could be, hey, well done. I sometimes finished my lesson saying, hey, thank you so much. You've been doing great. You know, I've been able to do my job because you've behaved. And I think at the beginning of my career, I actually forgot to do that. And then I only focused on that bad behavior that was occurring in class. So I think this works really, really well.
We had a couple of teachers actually last year in Edinburgh who deployed a points system, and I had to go in and cover one of the teachers one of the days, and the students said that which at the end of each lesson, whichever team was in the lead, they got to choose 5 minutes at the end, the theme of the word association game that they would play. So it'd be a vocabulary game at the end of every lesson, and whichever team was in the lead, they got to choose the theme of the game at the end. And it was a lot of fun. The students they were asking me if we could do this game. So it really motivates the students to learn and to behave well in the classroom. So yeah, and you can also hear them in the centers that when the students are in the canteen, or when they're doing like the sports in the evening, you can hear them talking about I don't know, the games that they play or the music that was chosen because they behave well, which is always good. And then like if students see that the other students get rewarded, they want the rewards as well, so then their behavior will just naturally get better. So yeah, positive reinforcement is super important, as are consistent consequences. So positive reinforcement is obviously praising the students when they've behaved well. Unfortunately, when behavior is inappropriate or just plain bad, we need to be consistent with how we deal with these with these behavior. So if the students know if they are caught on TikTok, on Instagram, or something, that maybe we have to take away their phone for the lesson. So if the students know that that is a possibility, hopefully they won't be on something that they shouldn't be. If they're being disruptive in group work, maybe they would have to work alone. And on the flip side, with the points system, if the students are speaking their native language and not the target language, then points deductions will happen, and they won't be able to choose the music or the game that they play towards the end of the lesson.
I'm a
Um,
horrible teacher. I'm evil because I generally deduct points from
don't give.
groups. So even if it's just one student, it's like, oh, your group will be affected.
Yeah, no, that's what I do as well.
And then the whole group, actually
Yeah, exactly,
tells that person off, which is great.
exactly. So if you have any other consequences that you like to use, please let us know in the chat, and we can see if there's any unique ones that we've not come across before. But the important thing with having rules like this is that they are consistent. You can't take one person's phone away and then not somebody else's. If you're going to move somebody because they're being disruptive in group work, but then somebody else is disruptive, you need to move both students. Um, Having one rule for some and then letting the rule slide for others um, isn't fair in general, but it also leads to more bad behavior because the students don't know when the rule is going to be enforced. So they will just basically try to be as badly behaved as possible if they don't think there are any consequences. So um, the consequences don't need to be super severe, but they at least need to be consistent. Okay. Um, so even
Oh,
and even if it is something like maybe the class in general hasn't behaved that well, not picking on individual students, but the class in general, then you can say, okay, there's no game, there's no music at the end of the class. You haven't been very well behaved, so there's no reward. Um,
we've got Chantal here. We're
mhm.
terrible. Teachers are very evil. She suggested sending extra homework. I like
Extra
that
homework.
one. So if they don't do, oh, that's what I understand, Chantal. If they
Hmm.
don't do their homework very often, then they get extra homework.
Or if they misbehave in the class, maybe
Yeah, of
they do
course.
extra exercises.
But I mean, not
Very
doing
mean.
homework is another way of misbehaving. I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
agree with her. So
Very
yeah, I
mean.
like that. Extra homework. They hate homework, don't they?
Yeah, I hate homework. Okay, and then conflicts resolution. So this is maybe less um, used, I would say, in the MLA centers. Maybe in your state schools, private schools, it's it's used more applicable. Um, but we need to know how to resolve a conflict in the classroom if it happens between groups of students, even maybe between teacher and student. We need to know how to navigate and to resolve this. When this occurs, it reestablishes the hierarchy in the classroom. Okay, so the teacher is in charge of the classroom. The students need to know that this is the case. Okay, so even if they challenge the teacher, um, challenging teachers is fine as long as it's done in a productive way. But if they're challenging the authority, not listening, undermining the teacher, then that's completely different. And obviously, if there's conflict between students, the teacher needs to act as a mediator, possibly an arbiter between the two students, and work for compromise. Mediation and arbitration are quite similar, but basically it when this arises, we need to allow the students um, to explain their side of the story, both sides.
Oh, we lost you, Luke. Something happened there. Let's give him a minute, because we lost him completely. Hmm, we can't hear.
Learning.
You're back.
I'm
No,
back.
you're not. Now you're back. Oh, I think he had a bit of an issue with his internet. It looks like it. So let me take this from here. Give me 1 second. Um, mm, mm, mm. Let's give it a minute. And then I'll take it from here. So I think also with conflict resolution.
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry,
We lost you completely, Luke,
sorry. Don't know what happened there.
and we cannot see you anymore. Okay. Let's take it from here. We're nearing the end anyway. So as Luke mentioned earlier, um, you might need a different approach. I think it's also important to acknowledge the help that we have in our schools. It could be that director of studies, a director, some sort of chief to actually help and to establish who is in charge of the classroom and why you want them to be involved. They're going to be in charge of the classroom as long as they uh, go by the rules that we've all established together. Um, so basically, do you have any conflict resolution strategies that you use? Can you please let us know in the chat and we can talk about them? Sorry,
Ruth,
I
can
think,
you hear me?
yes, I can a little
Can you,
bit. You're
okay.
cracking up a bit. Keep calm and carry on, guys. Thank you.
I think it's the
Thank you,
weather.
Gaetano. That's just what I say. I think it applies to our session today as well. Thank you. Um, so basically, we need to be in charge. So involving the families, I think that's a very good one, Teresa. Families
Hmm.
need to get involved, and sometimes that works in our favor. Sometimes that's a little bit more problematic, but everybody needs to understand that we're just trying to implement a conducive environment for learning. That's the
Hmm.
key to this. Okay,
In
right?
some leaders can raising
We can't.
families. We can get group leaders together.
We can't hear you, Luke. You keep cracking up. I'm sorry. So, the conclusion here after this session will be that we've shown you the different approaches that have been demonstrated to work towards maintaining a good behavior in the EFL classroom. Let's remember that we have seen three types of approaches. Do you remember? Proactive and reactive. So we have two types of approaches with two categories. Okay. And basically that there's no better way to use the strategies and different approaches will work better for different teachers. And this, we always go back to this conclusion. It depends on what works for you and what doesn't, and it's about assessing the needs of your class and making sure that you are diagnosing what may be problematic in the classroom, as we said at the beginning. So, okay, I have an all boys class. I've got only four boys in class. That, the environment, we assess the needs of the classroom and then we'll use different approaches um, based on what works better. But it's also a good idea to step out of our comfort zone and try different strategies. Let's see what works better. Let's explore our teaching practice. I think this is something that I always encourage teachers to do as a teacher trainer. And maybe one of these strategies, one of these tips, you can use them in class and see how they work. And then let us know. Look, I think you're back.
Perfect. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, loud and
Sorry,
clear. Welcome back.
I think we've got a big thunderstorm happening. So,
I hope you're
um,
safe.
apologies for that, everybody. And thank you, Ruth. So yeah, just to close, as always, if you have any ideas, suggestions for future webinars, please let us know. Put them in the chat or get at us at Formazione. Um, Ruth, if you
Lovely.
do the next one.
Sorry.
But yep, that's okay. Thank you all for your participation this evening. As I said at the outset, you will be getting a certificate of participation and a handout. If you don't receive it, contact us at Formazione.
Oops.
And the webinar next week will be on B1 and B2, use of English games. So hopefully you can join us all for that, which I think Ruth, you'll be heading that one now.
Yeah, I hope that's a useful one. We love games, and we just hope to see you all here. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for all your kind messages and patience while we were sorting out these technical issues. And we hope to see you soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everybody. Bye. Bye. Bye.